Hi there, it's Mike with Landscrapers and True Pool Company. We're here today after about 400 and some odd pools. The one thing that we always have from customers is, you went through pool school so fast, there's no way we could possibly remember it. So today we're going to go through, we're going to post this online so it's easy to go back to and remember everything. In this case here, we're working on a beautiful black pool here in Salina, Texas. We've got a Outback Lounger and an elevated cube spa in the black color, which is always cool. So we're going to go through and we'll start with the clean out, then we're going to run through the system. Obviously if you don't have a spa, some of these things won't apply to you, but if you do, this will be covered. So the first thing we're going to talk about is doing the clean out. And what we want to do with the clean out is, first of all, we're going to cut the power to our pump. So we always want to have that off to start with. So I'm going to walk over here real quick and cut the power and come right back. And in just a few minutes, we will go over all of the pump operation and how that stuff works. But when we go to clean out our pool, this is going to be the same no matter what pool you have. We're going to start by grabbing our pole here, our universal pole, which hooks to our brush, our net, and also our vacuum bag. Go ahead and hook that on. Got the two ears here, you can slide right in, and then it'll click in place. Take your pole and extend it out. Open this up like this and slide it out and then snug it back in. Then, and this is an important step, when we take our hose, you want to fully unroll your hose. And the reason why is because the power that these pumps have with these hoses is strong enough that even though the temptation is typically, oh, I got a bow in this thing, let me pull it straight. If you do that, it will suck it flat. And when it sucks it flat, it's always weak there. You will always have a problem with it sucking it flat. So we're going to go ahead and pull this all the way out. Either end is the same size. Some say plug this end in the vacuum. It really doesn't matter. They're both the same size. But we'll go ahead and we'll unroll it all the way out, uncoiling it as we go. Throw it in the water, leave your one end out, take your pole, connect the other end, which is just simply sliding down on top of it. Place it in the pool and maybe against a wall, somewhere kind of deep. Let the pole hang out to the side here. Throw the rest of the hose in the water. That's our first thing. The second thing is, this is very important, this is called your back plate. Your back plate is designed to channel all the water into this hole and stay over top of the basket. So if anything heavy gets sucked up, it ends up in the basket and not through the system into your pump or stuck in a plumbing line. On these particular back plates, they have a blow-by. This is designed if you have too much suction. Say if we've installed your pool and the pump is real close to the skimmer, you may have so much suction from that pump that it sucks that vacuum flat down to the floor. In which case, by the way, if it does, please shut your pump off before you try to pull it off the floor. Otherwise, you'll snap those ears off. It happens more than you'd think. Anyway, in most cases, you know, clockwise, it says fast and slow right here. I usually go down clockwise and just snug it up. That completely shuts off the blow-by. It puts 100% of the suction through our hose. Again, if you're having a problem with it sticking, just back it off a little bit, and that allows some of the suction to pass through this area and kind of lowers the amount here so that you won't keep having that problem. But in Nicole's case here, we're going to tighten this down. Then we're going to come over here to our skimmer, and we're going to actually look inside the skimmer because there's a couple important things to see here. This basket here, you'll see has all these slots on it. This skimmer is designed, these are great skimmers, but they're designed to have this basket locked. If it's not, this will not lock and this rubber ring will not seal, in which case you will not get the suction that you should for your vacuum. So what I tell people is take your finger, wipe around this little edge here, because the smallest little piece of dirt will keep this thing from locking. Slide this basket down in here, and once you get it in there, just give it about a quarter turn, then it's locked in place. The same thing's going to be the case for our vac plate. We're going to slide it down in here, and we're going to give it a quarter turn, and we're going to feel it lock right there. And if you're not sure, just grab inside of it and make sure you can't pull up on it. At this point, we're ready to start our pump back up. So I'm going to do that. I'll be right back. Now, if you have a 2-speed pump like this particular job, or if you have a variable speed pump, no matter what, you want to be on the high setting. If it's a 2-speed, you want to be on high. If it's variable speed, hit the quick clean button on your Hayward pump, and that will put you up to about 3,450 RPMs. We want good suction when we go to vacuum this, so we're not wasting our time. I've left a little bit of dirt in here from our clean out. This pool just got its major clean out here yesterday, and we're cleaning up some little stuff. So you'll be able to see how this works. But once we've got all this in here, take one end and find the nearest return and just hold this end in front of the return. What it's going to do is it's going to blow all this air out of this hose so that the system doesn't have to try to purge it, and it'll make it so it's real quick. You'll see this vac head raise up, and it'll start blowing out some bubbles here in a second. You'll see the hose going down. It's going to blow out all that air. This is a 45-foot hose, and it would take a good 5 minutes for this purge through the system, but this here speeds it all up. Once the bubbles stop and our head starts sinking back down on our brush, we're good to go. Then it's real easy. Walk your end over, and it's pretty self-guiding. If you get anywhere close to that hole, it's going to suck right in there. So now it's still got a little bit of air in the system, so it'll take a second for it to, purge all the rest of the air out, usually only about 30 seconds or so. When you see returns starting to spit water back out again, you're good to go. And in this case, we have that happening. So now we're ready to vacuum, and it is easy as it sounds. We can literally just come right over anything that's on the bottom here, and it's just gonna suck it right out. Very quick process. When you get good at this, after doing it a couple times, usually your pool will end up, the entire cleaning will take you about 20 minutes. And that's about all the maintenance you got to do on your fiberglass. But there is another question that people ask me, Mike, how come I'm not able to get the stuff off my side walls with my brush? It's kind of like a countertop. The walls on a fiberglass are so smooth, unlike the bottom. Any flat surface on our fiberglass pools are textured, so the brush works great on those. But like a countertop, if you were to take a brush and try to clean your countertop off, it might loosen everything up, but it's not going to pull it off. So in that case there, what we have, and there's a couple different ways you can do this. This is what I pick up for my cleanings from Home Depot. This is actually a window washing mop. They're about 30 bucks, and they just have a nice soft mop head on them, and everything on a fiberglass pool will wipe right off. Very simple. That is all you have to do. You can spend an hour out here trying to brush everything, or you can spend about 10 minutes just wiping it all right off. Very, very easy to use. If you don't have one of these, have no fear. The other side of that is you can also take your brush. It's a little frustrating because it keeps falling off, but you can wrap a towel or a t-shirt or any kind of rag. You can wrap around this, put it on the end, and use that to wipe your walls. But wiping will work, brushing will not on the walls. It will on the floor, but not on the walls. So once we've gone through here, clean this last little bit up here on the edge. By the way, when you're doing these safety ledges, the easiest way to do it is keep the triangular brush head flat against the edge and just kind of slide it, maybe give it a little shake as you go, and you'll see it just pulls everything right off of there. Same thing with your steps. try to keep this head flat against the walls, and it does a great job. And you can see how quick it works. It just flies through it. So now that we're done, let's assume we finished vacuuming our entire pool. Now we're ready to do the clean out, which is only 3 steps. The first thing we're going to do is, once again, we're going to turn the power off to our pump. So let me go do that. Okay. Step 1. We're going to go ahead and we're going to pull our hose out. You won't be able to get this out very easy if you don't shut your pump off. And you'll never get the vac plate out if you don't shut your pump off. But we're going to go ahead and pull that out. The second thing is the removal of this vacuum plate. You're going to notice on this one side of this you have a tab. That tab you pull back with your finger or your thumb, and then turn, and that unlocks it and slides out. And we're going to take our basket, pull it out, knock it off, and put it back in. You're never going to get every tiny little pebble out of here. Don't drive yourself crazy. It's all right. Put that back in. It's a good idea to just lock it, then you know it's done. That's step 1. Okay. Step 2 is over here at our pump system, which we've had a little rain and a little water from the clean out, so this one's a little muddier. But step 2 is going to involve cleaning out our system here. On your Hayward cartridge filter, no matter what size you are, you're going to have a gauge on the front, you're going to have a vacuum release on the back that's a red tab. You just turn this counterclockwise and you'll start hearing the air hissing. We're breaking the vacuum seal on this. This allows us to be able to pull everything apart without breaking it. So once we have this, then we're going to take the ears of this cover our dome lid, just give it a little hit, and then this is our secondary screen. This is the one for the pump, and this is designed to catch anything if for somehow it went through the system. This is designed to keep the pump from getting damaged. Take this out, tap it off a couple times. On the smaller pumps, you're going to notice a little alignment notch here. There's also a plastic line here. This hole should always face front, and that alignment slot should be right in with that plastic piece. And that's important to know because you can actually put this in and get this dome lid on without it being in place, and if it's not, you'll lose suction. And we've had a lot of people say, well, I got air coming in through my system, I don't understand what's going on. If this isn't installed the way that it's shown, it'll suck in just a little bit of air around that dome seal, because there's a rubber O-ring that keeps that sealed, and this allows that O-ring to sit flat against that. Put it back on and just snug. That's it. And then the third and final step is, on our cartridge filter, there's going to be a red latch. This is our unlock latch. You're going to hold on to this latch and you're going to turn this counterclockwise, about a quarter turn, then you can let the latch go. Turn it the rest of the way, pull it off, set it to the side somewhere, and this is your actual cartridge filter. Now this filter will just lift out, and we're going to walk over here to our hose, and I'm going to show you how easy this actually is. Find a place nice and flat, you can set it down, grab your hose, then you simply hose it off, and you'll see all the dirt coming right out of there. It's a very, very easy system to maintain. And you just go around it. You're never going to get perfectly right again. I'm speaking to all my OCD people. You'll never get it perfectly right again. That's okay. We want the main junk to get off there. And as time goes by, we're going to see this slowly but surely turn a little bit more brown. That's natural for any filter. So at this point, this is the time when every customer asks me, Mike, how long does this last? How long is this going to be? Here's my answer to that question. It really depends on what's in the pool. These filters will handle a tremendous amount of dirt and rock and junk that's in the pool. What these filters hate, what ruins these filters, is oils. You'll notice whenever you go to a health club or a hotel, they want you to shower before you get into the pool. The reason why is they want all that conditioner out of your hair, they want all those oils off your skin, they want everything, because what the oils will do is they'll form a film on this pleat that you won't even be able to see with the eye. So you'll clean the whole thing off and you'll call me up, Mike, I've cleaned my filter, I don't understand, I still don't have any flow. The reason why is because there's a film on here that you can't even see from oils. Now, again, usage. So I had one couple that I did a job for that had a 16-year-old girl who was very social. Her and her friends came over every weekend, lobbed on the suntan oil, hung out in the pool, and literally clogged that filter in about 2 weeks. You can get what's called a degreaser where you can soak these in, but that degreaser, it's a messy process. It will work, but you're not going to extend a lot of life out of it. I'm just giving you my personal opinion. So the best thing to do is to try to kind of do what the hotels and everybody else does. You know, rinse off, or at least don't apply a ton of suntan oil. Or if you do, know what you're in for. You're going to probably clog this. Now, this is important to help you understand. A good way to tell when this filter is trashed in a film situation like we've talked about, there's a couple different key elements depending on what you have on your pad. The easiest way, though, is if you're not sure and all of a sudden you're seeing a loss in pressure, I just don't have the returns, or if you have water features, they're not spitting out like they used to, pull the cartridge out, put the top back on, and run the pool without the cartridge in it. If all of a sudden you get all your pressure back, this guy here's your problem. It's time to get rid of him. And I don't mind saying, don't go to Leslie's, don't go to anywhere else. Go to Amazon, you can get your best deal there. Leslie's is literally going to charge you about double for this same filter. All you need to know is your filter size. In this case, we've got a 200 square foot. And once that's done, you'll know how to change it. But anyway, so that's it. We just reinsert it back in after we've hosed it off. We're going to pull this top here. We're going to set it on. This doesn't matter which way this faces. It doesn't matter. But when we do prime the system, we're going to be shooting some water out of here. So you'll want to keep an eye on where this is. You don't want to set it like that and, you know. So in this case here, we're just going to kind of aim it this way. Grab a hold of it, hold it steady while you turn the collar. It's going to thread on there. And then you're going to hear, when it comes to the end, you're going to hear this red latch click. When it clicks, you're there. And there it is. It's clicked. Now, we're ready to start our system back up. That's really all you have to do to clean the whole system out. When we start our system up, we're going to hear the air hissing out of this vacuum release right here as this fills up with water. That's priming the system. So we're going to go ahead and turn this on. When the water starts spitting out, that's when it's time to close this, and we're done. So we're going to go ahead, give it just a second, you'll hear it start hissing. Done. But let's talk about a couple other ways to tell. On your system, the typical system, depending on the distance, is going to run on this gauge somewhere right around between 7 and 10 pounds when it's clean. Okay, this is a movable gauge. So when you first get your pool installed and we start it up, we're going to see where a clean filter puts us for pressure, and that's where we're going to set our green arrow. As this has more restriction, the pressure is going to build inside this, which is going to send our gauge up towards the red. That's another way to tell when it's time to clean that filter out. Another thing people ask me, do I really have to clean it out every week? No, but I mean, you don't have to brush your teeth every day either. So it's really, in my opinion, a wise thing to just do all of it. It only takes about 20-25 minutes. This is going to last a lot longer if it's cleaned out. Another thing that's really hard on these is stagnant water. A lot of times there's tons of theories on how to run pools. I'm a practical guy, I see what works and doesn't work. And we're here in North Texas and I know it works. Typically the cost savings of shutting these pumps off and having multiple timers and having them only run during certain periods of time it really doesn't offset the cost that it takes to deal with only one algae bloom, because we got 110 degree weather and your pump was off and there was no water circulating. That's when water isn't circulating, we're not chlorinating, we're not filtering, we're not doing anything. So if that's the case, I mean, you can do the math on that. Now in the winter, I do recommend you don't really need to have your pool running through the night. All of our pools, in this case here, this pool runs off a time clock that's a freeze guard time clock. We can take and set and choose what temperature we want this thing to override any plans that we have. In other words, if I have a bunch of timer pins set in here, so it's going on and off, if it drops below, say, in this case, I'm going to set it at about 38 degrees. This has an ambient temperature coil inside of it. When that temperature drops down below 38 degrees, this thing says, I don't care what your timer says, we're kicking this on, we got to protect the system. So if you have it set up in such a way where you do want to keep it off in the winter, that's fine, have no fear. Even if it's a variable speed and one of your electronic, or if we do an Omni unit for you, either way, each one of these have freeze protection built in. And if you come out at 2 in the morning for a glass of water and you see your pool running, it's probably because it's protecting itself. And so that's okay. While we're talking about the time clock, if you do have a time clock, this here is 12:42. This inside area here, this is how we set our time of day. Black is night and white is day. We're only talking about inside this little window right here. Right now, 12:42. Okay, so that would be our time of day that's set. If you lose power for a long period of time because of a storm or something, that's, you know, you can just go ahead and reset this or come out and check and make sure. When you do want to set times that you want this to go off, you'll simply take your green, if you have a freeze protect timer, mechanical timer, you'll take your green or your red and you'll simply slide them in place at whichever time you want it to turn on and then to turn back off. And they're that easy. And if you want to change them, you can change them. And if you want to get more pins, they're pretty cheap. You can buy more pins. I've come out before where I've seen 35 pins in there. I don't even understand it. But anyway, if you do want to turn a master switch off, just so you understand how this timer works, a short counterclockwise turn turns off the power to these pumps. You shouldn't need to, but it's good to know how everything you have works. So another short quarter turn, boom, it's back on again. That's your freeze protect timer. When we install our systems, they're always going to have a master shutoff that kills everything on the entire pad. That's an electrical code, that's safe, that's the way to do it. On your GFI, one of these is going to be a complete kill to everything. The second one, if you have a 2-speed pump, is designed with high on the top, off in the center, low on the bottom. So that's about all you need to know on the electrical. Let's talk for a second on your UV unit. These things are worth their weight in gold. Honestly, if you have a UV unit, it's 100% a good decision. This thing uses the light that God made to kill everything that you don't want in your body or in your pool water. And this does have what's called a flow sensor on it, which means that a couple different things can happen. In fact, we'll see, it'll run. See, when we go into our low speed, there's not enough flow going through this UV unit to protect its light bulb. It needs a certain flow to make sure it doesn't keep blowing light bulbs. So if you see this, if you come out and you see this turned off, we have a restriction in flow somewhere. In this case, it would be because we actually have it turned off or turned down. Once we get proper flow, this thing knows, okay, I'm not going to burn out, and it turns on. Another thing that will cause this is if this gets too clogged up and there's not enough flow going through here, it's also going to shut itself off. That's the third way I was going to tell you, if you do have a UV unit, to know when this guy's clogged. This just ain't going to come on. So other than that, UV units, you don't have to do anything to them. They just work. That's why I love them. So that's all you need to know on the UV unit. And the last thing I want to do before I go over specifically how the spa system works, which I'll do on another video, the last thing I want to do is show you how to test your water. So let's take a walk over here. make this extremely simple for people. I love these things. Gone are the days of the old, take a drop here and then 3 drops of that and shake it up. Now you have it all on one strip. These are important to keep dry, so don't store them outside. You really don't want moisture in them. If you get moisture in them, they're going to get trashed. Pull a strip out. This is almost cheating, it's so easy. You'll just take this thing in, dip it in for a couple seconds, pull it out, and then we go through and we compare one by one. This is our hardness. That's our chlorine. It's our free chlorine. I kind of trashing this thing touching it, but that's our pH level and alkalinity and cyanuric acid. Everything you need to know on your pool on one strip in one dip. Each one of these things, keep this case because it'll show you where the okay level's at, where ideal, where okay. It'll show you where everything's at. So in this case, Nicole's case, she's okay on her hardness. Pretty good. Actually ideal on her total chlorine. Same with her free chlorine. She's a little bit high on pH, not much. Alkalinity is kind of high. And then our cyanuric acid is right where we need to be. So here's the next thing. Okay, so which ones do I need to get? Let me make it easy for you because I'm a basic guy. Go to Walmart and buy pH up, pH down, alkalinity up, alkalinity down. That way you don't have to remember, do I need uric acid? Do I need cyanuric acid? Just go buy the stuff that tells you up or down. It makes it a whole lot simpler. Or if you are going to go to another pool supply store, just tell them, maybe bring a strip in, or just tell them, you know, here's where I'm at. If you do go to Leslie's, which Leslie's is great for noodles and nets, and they're great for testing your water. That's about where it ends. If you take and run one of these out to Leslie's, what you can do is actually take an 8-ounce glass of water and they'll test it right there. So they'll come up with the same results that you have on site, and they can also point you to the direction of, okay, you need this product or that product. The last thing I'm going to tell you though on pool chemistry is it's really important to give it 24 hours before you make a change. So in other words, if you have low chlorine and you add some chlorine, let's say free chlorine, you actually dump it into the pool, or we're trying to raise or lower pH, don't trust the results for about 24 hours. It needs time to go through all the system and get completely. So what I'll do is I'll have people that'll come in, they'll have high pH, they'll put pH down in it, they'll come out and test it in 3 hours. Well, it didn't go down, they'll add more, and then the next thing you know, they've switched the problem to the opposite side of the spectrum. So that's just really important to know. If you understand all that, then it's really easy to take care of these pools. And honestly, I guess I should mention this. This is the last step, and this will be part of every pool. On a fiberglass pool, we install a sump pipe. All around this pool is filled in with porous material, and that allows any water always takes the easiest path. So that allows any water that would gather around this shell to basically sit in against it. We don't want that. Aircraft carriers even float. Anything heavy, if it gets too much water on the outside rather than the inside, it's going to pop. Once your concrete deck is down, and with the small overdigs we do, it's very unlikely you're going to have any issues with water, but you might also have groundwater issues or something, and many pools that we do have groundwater that's moving through them. If that's the case, no matter what, this is the only thing you will do on the shell maintenance of your pool is usually once a month. You're going to pop the top on this and you're just going to look inside it. You can see how deep your pool is. This will always be installed at the deep end of the pool. In this case, this pool is a flat bottom. It goes down to exactly the bottom. We actually put them in a few inches underneath the bottom. They're sealed on the bottom of it. They're slotted on the sides. So any water that does gather around this pool shell is going to end up in this pipe. If that's the case, if you see 6-8 inches of water in there, don't sweat it. But if we start seeing a couple feet of water in there, we could have a couple problems. We could either have water that's somehow getting in, groundwater or something, or worst case scenario, one of the parts on the pool has failed. Everything can fail. If that happens one way or another, we don't want this popping up. Even gunite pools will pop if they get too much water. So it's important to keep an eye on this, and certainly if all of a sudden you see a major influx of water coming in, especially if your water in your pool is going down, give us a call. Let us know what's going on. We need to figure it out. But again, 8 inches in here, no big deal, but if we see it creeping up a foot or more, take the pump that we provide for you. If you've lost it, or if you've broken it, or whatever, these are cheap. They're 1/6 horsepower. waterfall pumps are what they're sold as. Either Lowe's or Home Depot has them for about $100. Attach your garden hose to it, drop it in, let it go until you don't see any water come out of the hose. When you pull it out, you're still going to have 4 or 6 inches left. That's all right. This thing doesn't pump all the way down to the ground. But that's important to know. It's not something to ignore. It's really probably never going to be an issue, but you do need to have an eye on it at least once every couple weeks or a month. Just pull the cover off and just look at it. That's all you got to do. And other than that, enjoy your pool. It's an easy system. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.